When we talk about modern air power, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably those super advanced, super expensive stealth fighters, right? The jets that are all about speed and bleeding edge tech. But what if I told you that one of the most effective, most important combat aircraft out there today isn't a jet at all? What if it's a tough, smart, and incredibly deadly turboprop from Brazil? Today, we are doing a deep dive into the story of the Embraer A29 Super Tucano.
Okay, so let's really unpack this question because it's the key to everything. For decades, the thinking was pretty straightforward. Faster is better, higher is better, stealthier is better. But the world has changed, and so have the rules of war. The biggest threats a lot of countries face today aren't massive air forces with fleets of enemy jets. No, the threat is an insurgency, a drug cartel, a terrorist group hiding in plain sight. And in that kind of fight, what we call asymmetric conflict, sending a $100 million stealth fighter to do a border patrol is, well, it's just insane. Think about it. It's like using a Formula One race car to deliver a pizza. Sure, it can do it, but the cost is astronomical, the wear and tear is immense, and it's totally the wrong tool for the job. And this, right here, illustrates that point perfectly. On one side, you've got the icon of traditional air dominance, a fifth-gen fighter built to fight a near-peer enemy in a massive war. But on the other side, you have the reality of modern conflict. You have the Super Tucano. This is an aircraft designed from the ground up to operate from bumpy, unpaved airstrips in the middle of nowhere. It's made to loiter, to just hang out in the sky over a target for hours on end. And it can deliver incredibly precise firepower without bankrupting a country's defense budget. It's all about having the right tool for the job. And for a huge number of jobs today, the Super Tucano is absolutely the right tool. So here's our game plan for really getting to know this incredible aircraft. We'll start with the new rules of air war that even created the need for something like the Super Tucano. Then we'll look at its journey from a trainer aircraft into a hardened warrior. We'll explore just how versatile it is, and then we'll break down its core capabilities. What makes it so tough, so smart, and so lethal. After that, we'll look at its combat record, and finally, we'll think about what it all means for the future of light attack aircraft. Right, so first things first, the context. The end of the Cold War didn't mean the end of fighting. It just completely changed what fighting looks like. The giant tank battles we planned for on the plains of Europe, they were replaced by counterinsurgency ops, by tense border patrols, and by missions to hunt down drug traffickers in some of the most remote and rugged places on Earth. And in those scenarios, what you need isn't just brute force. What you really need is persistence, precision, and doing it all at a cost you can actually afford. And this is the absolute core of the issue. When your enemy is a small group of people who can just melt back into the local population, you don't need a plane that can fly at twice the speed of sound. What you need is an aircraft that can fly low and slow. You need something that can stay on station for hours and hours, using sophisticated sensors to find and positively identify targets. And then you need to be able to engage them with surgical precision. On top of all that, the platform has to be tough, super reliable, and able to work with the bare minimum of support from some pretty rough airfields. That specific set of requirements, that is the niche the Super Tucano was born to fill. Now, an aircraft this specialized doesn't just appear out of thin air. The A29 has this really fascinating backstory. It actually evolved from a very successful trainer, the EMB 312 Tucano. But, and this is the important part, this wasn't just a case of someone deciding to bolt a couple of rocket pods onto a trainer plane. Oh no, this was a slow, deliberate, multi-year transformation guided by real combat needs that turned a plane for student pilots into a battle-hardened combat aircraft. And you can see just how gradual that evolution was on this timeline. This didn't happen overnight. It actually starts way back in the mid-80s, with a first attempt at a more powerful Tucano that just didn't get off the ground. But the real spark was in 1991, with this incredible prototype they nicknamed the Helicopter Killer. This thing had a stronger airframe, a much more powerful engine, and they even stretched the fuselage by almost 5 feet. It was a totally different beast. By 1995, the Brazilian government saw the potential and officially gave Embraer the contract for what they called the ALX. When the final version first took to the skies in 1999, it was so far removed from the original that it got a whole new name, the EMB 314 Super Tucano. It officially entered service in 2003, ready for action. So what do we even call a plane like this? Well, its official category is light attack aircraft. And that's not just some fancy marketing term. It's real military classification. It describes planes that are meant to operate in what's called a low-threat environment. Basically, that means you're not expecting to go toe-to-toe with enemy fighter jets or advanced surface-to-air missiles. Instead of speed and altitude, the priorities are totally different. You want low cost, both to buy and to fly. You want long loiter time, which is just military speak for being able to stay in the air over the target area for a very long time. And you want maximum flexibility. That's the sweet spot for a light attack aircraft. Now this comparison to its main competitor, the T-6 Texan II, tells you everything you need to know about the Super Tucano's DNA. They look similar, but their design philosophies are polar opposites. The Texan is a pure trainer at heart. It's designed to feel like a jet to make life easier for student pilots. The attack version is an adaptation of that. The Super Tucano is the reverse. It is a combat aircraft first and foremost, which also happens to be a fantastic trainer. It was literally built like a tank to handle the tough conditions of the Amazon. And the biggest difference of all, those two internal 50 cal machine guns. That's a combat first design choice, plain and simple. And that combat-first mindset leads us right to the A-29's core identity, its incredible versatility. This is no one-trick pony. We're talking about a true multi-mission platform. The Swiss Army knife of the skies is a perfect description, really. It can be reconfigured right there on the flight line to handle a huge range of different jobs. And that flexibility is a massive reason for its success all over the world. I mean, just look at this. This image says it all. Over 160 certified external loadouts. That's just wild. It means you can tailor the A-29 for pretty much any mission you can dream up. You need precision-guided bombs? Check. Unguided rockets for close support? Check. Gun pods, air-to-air missiles for self-defense, extra fuel tanks to stay up even longer. Check, check, and check. And remember those internal guns we keep talking about? They are key because they free up the pylons on the wings for even more weapons or fuel. That's a huge advantage over competitors who have to waste a pylon just to carry a gun. So what does all that flexibility mean in the real world? Well, it means that on a Monday, an A-29 might be flying a close air support mission, protecting troops on the ground. On Tuesday, it could be doing armed reconnaissance, actively hunting for enemy targets. On Wednesday, it could be flying an air interdiction mission to stop smugglers. It can spend hours and hours just watching a border with its sensors, then train a new pilot in the afternoon, and even serve as a forward air controller, basically the aerial quarterback, directing airstrikes from other aircraft. It really can do it all. Okay, let's pop the hood. Let's really get into the nuts and bolts of what makes the Super Tucano so good at its job. You can really break it down into three main pillars. It's tough and built to survive, it's smart with advanced avionics, and it's lethal with precise and powerful weapons. It's the way these three things come together that makes it such a special aircraft. And this side-by-side shot just captures that blend perfectly. On the left, you see the ruggedness in action. That's the plane deploying flares to decoy heat-seeking missiles. This is an aircraft that's designed to take a hit and keep on flying. But then you look to the right and you see the cockpit. That's not some old-school steam gauge panel. That is a modern all-glass cockpit that gives the pilot unbelievable situational awareness. That is the soul of the Super Tucano. Old-school toughness combined with new-school tech. Let's talk about tough. Survivability wasn't an afterthought. It was baked into the design from day one. The cockpit and the critical parts of the engine are wrapped in Kevlar armor. The most important flight systems are redundant, which means if one system fails, there's a backup ready to take over. The fuel tanks are self-sealing, so if they get hit by small arms fire, they won't just gush fuel. And for the crew, they have 0-0 ejection seats. That means they can safely eject even if the plane is on the ground and not moving, a lifesaver. And of course, the reinforced landing gear lets it operate from those rough, unpaved runways we talked about. All right, now for the smart part. A huge part of the design is making the pilot's job easier, and that's where the avionics come in. The all-glass cockpit is fully compatible with night vision goggles. The head-up display, or HUD, puts all the most critical information right in the pilot's line of sight, so they never have to look down. The controls are what's known as HOTAS, hands-on throttle and stick, and this is so important in a fight. It means the pilot can manage weapons, sensors, and radios without ever taking their hands off the controls they use to fly the plane. Their focus stays outside, on the mission. And maybe the most critical piece of smart equipment is this thing right here, the electro-optical/infrared sensor turret. This is the eye of the Super Tucano. It lets the crew find, track, and identify targets from a safe altitude miles away in the middle of the day or at the dead of night. It can snap photos and record video for intelligence purposes, and when it's time to attack, it has a laser designator to guide bombs right onto the target with pinpoint accuracy. This one sensor transforms the A-29 from just an attack plane into a seriously powerful intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR, platform. And finally, we get to lethal. And we have to come back to this design choice one more time because it's so important. Unlike its main rival, the Super Tucano has two heavy machine guns built right into the wings. The advantage is simple, but it's huge. It means the plane is always armed, even with nothing on its wings. But more importantly, it leaves all 5 of its external hardpoints totally free for other stuff. More bombs for a big target, more rockets to support troops, or extra fuel for super long surveillance flight. It's a fundamental design choice that just multiplies its mission flexibility. Now, all these specs and design features are great on paper, but the real test, the only test that truly matters for a combat aircraft, is how it performs when the shooting starts. And this is where the Super Tucano really proves its worth. This is not a theoretical weapons system. It has a long, tough, and distinguished combat record, and it's been tested in some of the most difficult and dangerous environments you can imagine. I mean, this quote from the National Security Journal really says it all. This isn't a plane for air shows. This is a workhorse built for the dirtiest, hardest fights. In the dense jungles of Colombia, it was a key weapon against FARC insurgents. In the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, it gave vital air support to troops fighting the Taliban. And right at home in Brazil, it's used to hunt down drug trafficking planes and blow up illegal airstrips hidden in the Amazon. It has proven itself time and time again. And that incredible combat record has earned it the ultimate vote of confidence. Countries all over the world are buying it, from South America to the Middle East to Africa. From the jungles of Colombia to the deserts of Mali, air forces have looked at their needs and their budgets and have chosen the Super Tucano. The fact that over 260 of these planes have been delivered to more than 15 different nations, well, that tells you that this formula works. So let's pull it all together. What does this all mean? The A-29 Super Tucano is so much more than just a successful plane. It's a massive strategic success for Brazil and its defense industry. It has literally helped redefine what light air power means in the 21st century. And it proved to the world that you don't have to be a traditional military superpower to design, build, and export a world-class, battle-proven combat aircraft. And when you get right down to it, this number is one of the most compelling arguments for the Super Tucano's existence. It costs about $1,000 an hour to fly. Now that might sound like a lot, but in the world of military aviation, that is an unbelievable bargain. You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars an hour, sometimes even more, to fly a modern jet fighter. For countries with limited budgets that are facing these long, drawn-out insurgent threats, that cost difference is a total game changer. It means more flight hours, better trained pilots, and the ability to keep a constant eye on the battlefield. And that brings us right back to where we started. The story of the Super Tucano really forces us to ask a big, important question about the future. Is the goal always to chase the fastest, the highest flying, the most expensive plane we can possibly build? Or, as these kinds of asymmetric conflicts continue to be the norm, is the real advantage found in platforms like the A-29? Platforms that are versatile, affordable, tough, and perfectly optimized for the actual mission at hand. The worldwide success of this Brazilian turboprop strongly suggests that the future might be less about ultimate performance and more about finding the right tool for the job.